Hi, it's Adam from Buzzy. I've got a new feature that I'd like to give you a quick look at that allows you to create more robust visual and data relationships in the applications that you're building. Specifically, better support for many-to-many relationships. Now, we've already got many-to-many relationships, but we've just improved it. So in this example, we've got two main entities. We've got projects and we've got users. So, and let's assume we wanted to create a relationship where a project could have many users and a user could be part of many projects. So that pattern is applicable to many different types of scenarios that you might be building solutions for. So the first thing, let's go back over here. So if we went to, let's say, project one, you might be able to see that there's two users on that project. And if you were to click this record, now the thing that we're actually looking at over here is this is the new feature that we can display data not from the project users data table, which is the join table, but actually from the user data table. And I'll show you how that's going to work. So if we click on that, we can go to Mary, we can see the projects that Mary is, we can go back. Anyway, so that kind of just gives you a quick overview. So the first thing I'd like to show you is the data table structure. Obviously, you need to set this up through your Figma plugin. We've got projects. Projects has an embedded data table or embedded subtable. This at the moment we're calling an embedded micro app, but we're going to change the name of that soon. And that has that pulls in from the project users data table. So you have a join. So typically the way that you put a many-to-many relationship is you have entity one is related to entity two, and then in the middle you create a new data table, which is a join one, which cross-references each one of those. So in this example, what we've done is we've created a join table, which is called project users. And that has a specific field, which is what your role is in that project. So you might be in different projects and have different roles. And then we've got a linkage using a linked table field. Now this was called a cross-app field. We're changing the name to linked table field. I feel it's a bit easier to understand. And this allows you to link that field to another data table. In this example, it's the users data table. And then just to go back to complete the loop, here we've got the users data table, and that's just got, an image, a name, and an email address. So very simple structure. So the first one, again, just as a reminder, we're using a parent-child relationship for project users. And then we're using project users has got a link table field to the users data table. If we have a look at that in the back end, so here's the projects data table. If we went into, let's say, project one, we can see that there are the project users. If we went into a user, that's using a link table field, also known as a cross-app field, and we could have a look at, let's say, Mary's details. So that's what's happening in the underlying data structures. Let's look at how we put that together inside Figma. So let's just go across over here. The first screen over here is the project screen. Now this project screen has on it a view, which is actually, let's have a look at the design over here. It's a view, but it's a view done through a embedded micro app or data table. So this is pulling out anything that is a child of this that is of type project users. So if you look at that, it's pulling out and the projects, it's pulling out any children that are project users data table, which is the one up over here. Then we've got a repeating row, and that repeating row is then pulling out project user data records. However, the only data table or field over here that we want to be able to show from that is this the project role one. So that's the field from the project users data table, which is the role. These two fields are new feature number one. We can now put in the cross-referenced linked, the linked data table, or linked table field which is from the foreign data table, which is the user's one. So over here we're putting in the email address, over here we're putting in the name. How does it work it out? When this renders, it goes and says, okay, right, there's a field over here which is not part of the project user's data table, which is the items that we're rendering in this view. However, I do have a field that is a linked table field to the users table, and I'll look up, and just so happens that that field user's name exists in it, so I can find that user and render their name. So that's the first feature, is you can now put linked table fields, also same concept as foreign keys or foreign data in a traditional database, into your repeating rows over here, and you can render that. So that's how we're getting the name and the email address. Again, just a reminder, this over here, the project manager, is the role, and that is coming from the project user view. So that's the first feature. The second feature is when a user clicks on this, we might want to go to the project users, but in this scenario, we actually want to go and edit, or you might have a view screen of the actual user. So we don't want to edit the project user row or record. We actually want to go to that. So if we look over here, what we've done is we've wrapped around this inside the repeating row for the project user. We've said, we want you to navigate. There's a new feature over here that instead of passing the current data, remember the current data is going to be the project user row. That's not what we want to go to. We want to go to the linked table data, which happens to be the user. So we just find which, you might have multiple linked table fields on your row. So you might have another, going to a location or an office or something like that, another separate data table. But in this scenario, if you click this, we want to take you to the user record. In this example, it would be Bob. So that hopefully gives you an idea of the second feature, which allows you to navigate from a row of one data, which is the row over here is the project users row in this embedded field. It allows us to navigate to a row from a separate data table. So we're going to use the linked data table and go to the edit user screen over here. So that's going to the edit user screen, and it's going to use that linked table. So cool, that's the second feature. So then the third feature is and that was using the embedded field. But however, when we want to let's say show the user and say, just show me all the project user records that this user is part of, we had no way of doing that. And this is the third feature. So the third feature is we can have a look at, in this example, we're in the project. So we've added a view component. It's going to pull out project users. However, we need to filter this view based on the user. The user is going to be equal to the current row. So the current row is the user, so Bob or Mary. It says, okay, go and find me project users where the current user is equal to Mary or Bob, and show me their projects. We're using the same feature of being able to navigate back to, let's say, a project. It's slightly different. It allows you to go and get the parent data from the project. Because if you remember, project users are actually embedded in the project. So it allows you to get the parent data for that and navigate to the parent. So that's what it's doing over here. So over here we've got an action, navigate. We want to go to the edit project screen, and then instead of passing the current data, which is the project users record, because remember it's been filtered by the specific user of the page that we're on, we want to pass the parent data. Now there's one other important item over here, is that for this view to be able to find that data, it needs to have set up a sort field on it. So if you look at the project users over here, this is set up that field, which is the user record, as a key field, so it is sortable. So when you do this query on the left-hand side, it can find it. So you can now, this is a new feature. You weren't able to add in on that key field. You weren't able to do that on linked table fields, previously known as cross-app fields. We've now allowed you to be able to do that. So now that can be a sortable field, so it can be found in this. So that's the third feature. So if we just go back and have a look at how this works. So if we start off in the project, we're using embedded rows over here to find out all the project users. We're using that new field over here to show the user's name and their email address. This design field over here is coming from the project users record. The second feature, when I click on it, it takes me to the user and now it shows me the projects that they're on. And then this is not using an embedded row or embedded application field. It's actually just using a view that is filtered by Mary. So if I was looking at this from Bob or Fred, it would show me their projects and so on. So hopefully that makes sense. Some new functionality there, and we're keen to find out how you use it. Thanks for watching.